This is a team that was heading into tonight 12th in the NBA overall in field goal percentage. That's not that low, okay? Yet they were second overall in ISO percentage. And something like 22nd or 23rd in ISO field goal percentage, which means they run a lot of ISO. They're really friggin' bad at it. And in fact, when they do pass, they actually score at a fairly high clip. So this idea that they're leaving stuff on the table with these potential assists is silly. They're a team that does not help each other create baskets. They're near the bottom
I think
third
the
of the
guards
league.
do.
They're not though. That's the thing. They're fine. They're 30th and 40th overall in the league in assists right now. Smart and Schroeder. That means everybody's got a guy who does it that much. Like, that's not great.
Yeah,
If your starting point guard is 30th in the league in assists and 20th among guards, that's low. Bottom third is all I'm saying.
We're looking at a process, though. It's better than last year. You can't do worse than the assist rate was last year.
No, but they are doing worse. They're slightly worse this year.
I think the ball movement's been fine, and that's where the potential.
No, and they're slightly worse, and their assist numbers and their potential assist numbers are exactly in line with one another. So they are exactly what you would expect for the amount that this team passes the ball. They're not doing anything more. They're not. We're so used to it being this way that even a slight uptick in improvement over a small period of time, and we are like, oh, look, they moved the ball today. They do not do that very well. They do not help each other create baskets. And again, this is what this piece, among a million others that have been written, keeps saying is these aren't hit pieces. Like, I don't think Bontemps went out there looking for it. I think he's asking people, what do you think about the Celtics? And the general vibe you get outside of the little Celtic green echo chamber that you hear here is you got two guys who are supremely talented but don't really make their teammates better. You've heard it how many freaking times now? I mean,
yeah, but you have some other nonsense in there, like Tatum only cares about his numbers, and he wants to score 39 in a win, and he's not willing to score.
It's nonsense. Why? Because we live in Boston.
Because we watch him every game. He willingly gives up the ball off.
Yeah,
doubles.
But I think what John is asking is, do you think it's nonsense that an NBA GM would say that? Like, I don't think that's.
You think it's nonsense? I think if Jayson Tatum played somewhere else,
nonsense?
I think
I pretty much have said this already. That when Tatum's having a bad game, he's very upset when he's having a bad game. When he's having a great game, he's very happy by having a great game. You see it on the social media posts, drop 50 on him, whatever. Even if it's a win, it's more about the personal performance. And I'm not saying he's all about himself, but I'm not stunned to hear a GM say something along those lines. I mean, I think if you watch, you know that he gets very high and very low about his performances.
Yeah, I feel like if the Celtics were the Sixers,
that crazy?
No, you're right. I mean, look, if you sent the entire Celtics roster over to Philadelphia, we would be killing them.
Right.
Like, look at these losers, and they got these two guys, and all they want to do is score, and the rest of their team is
they don't
terrible.
Pass to each other.
They don't like each other. They don't pass to each other. Like, people would be having a field day with it. This is what people on the outside, I think, generally think.
We did it with the Sixers.
Watch every game. They just kind of catch bits and pieces. They have perceptions of what's going on. These questions were asked when the Celtics were stumbling, and it's like, oh,
no, they weren't. They've been asked at every period of time over the last couple of years, and the general consensus is these guys are not, their number one focus is not making one another better. They're both supremely talented at scoring the basketball. They are unique individual talents, but they aren't able to make each other or their teammates better. And until they do that, they're not going to get better. And so that's just generally what people think. But the other side of the article is the rest of the roster is garbage. And that's also fair. And that makes their job that much harder, because at the end of the day, that's one of the things the article talks about is you got really lucky with Horford and Schroeder because you got professional basketball players on this team to go along with Smart and then Rob's ascendancy. But the rest of the roster is a bunch of people that you're forced to play because you drafted them and they stink,
and you're really grasping at anything that they do well.
Anything.
To hang on to something. Romeo looked aware tonight. It's just things like that where it's actually guys in their second and third years, that are really good, you don't need to point out the little things that they're doing well on a random night.
Well,
Like
that's where
they
we're
just
at.
play good basketball. Like it's
On
that
that
simple.
switch, he could hang around with Durant, so that was good. That's encouraging.
No, I'm not knocking. It was just a name I threw out there. But like, yeah, there are actual things that he does well, especially on the defensive end. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're always reaching for like, give this guy a gold star sticker tonight because like he wasn't a complete liability out there.
Right. He literally didn't
like,
fall and hurt himself.
Right.
Wow. Right.
Right. Now,
I
Bobby,
mean,
it seems
You
like
heard
you're
that,
more
Neesmith?
upset with the timing of the article than what's actually
Well,
in
I'm
the
upset
article.
about the timing. I mean, it's basically a hit piece on their struggles that mentions
No,
they're actually third in net
no.
rating over the last 3 weeks. They're stuck
It's
in
not
neutral,
a
but they're
hit piece,
rolling.
Bobby.
I mean, come on. You play the best team in the NBA tonight and you lose, and we're going to reinforce it with that.
Well, Bobby,
We're
you're
not,
meanwhile,
Bobby.
like
Not
the
any.
proverbial not cool kid table, but like that table that you just let's say a handful of GMs and half of them feel that way. Like that wouldn't surprise
Listen,
me.
it's
Like
part
they've
of
been in
the
the
story.
league. Tatum and Brown have been in the league long enough
So
for
wait
someone
a
to come
second.
up with that kind of opinion.
It's
Wait a
part of the
second.
story, for sure.
We can paint a rosy picture of this team after wins against Oklahoma and Dallas. I mean, Oklahoma and Houston. But we can't say when they get absolutely eviscerated by actually a good team
Maybe the best team.
that this game matters. So this one didn't matter, but the two blowouts against crappy opponents are what
Well, it's not
defined
just
this
the
team.
blowouts. You had 3 weeks of #1 defense. You had 3 weeks without Brown of number 11 offense. You made serious progress on both sides of the ball under a new head coach. You're going in a better direction here.
You're going in a better direction
none of
because
this-
you were in such
progress
a
from
bad
young guys.
direction before.
I know, and Jimmy, to your point, like, oh, we're grasping at things. That was the point Jackson Frank, I thought, made great on Twitter in reaction to this. Like, the story of here is that they've lost a ton of talent.
Yes.
They haven't replenished it. And
Yes.
all of a sudden, everything's on the J.
It's both.
So they're making progress. You're
It's
seeing
all-
young guys in this game hang in there against Durant and KD down the stretch and push it at 13, and we're just laughing at it.
It's always been both, Bobby.
Yes,
That's the
they
thing.
are,
It's
actually.
always been both. It's always been that their job is harder because the roster around them is bad. So, in order for them to get better, they're going to have to play different or play better than they are now, or
And they're
else
in the
they're a
process of
500
doing that.
team. No, they're not. They're not. This is a 500 team now for a year and 20 games. Okay,
I mean,
they're not.
Brown's been back for half a game with his minutes
Every
on
team
it.
has injuries. Okay.
So I mean, I don't know how we're assessing his play in this. So, and then Tatum, you just watch how he plays. He gets off the ball. He gets off against the doubles. Did a great job against the Lakers. He's struggling to shoot for sure. And I do think we've said, like, at some point you're just playing bad instead of all these excuses that he's going through here. But this perception that he just cares about the stats, he's not looking to move out the ball. It's not true if you watch the game. It's just not. He's not a great ball mover. I don't think he necessarily raises the level of teammates, but he's working on it. He's getting better.
Okay, well that was
I guess, Bobby.
I mean, we're in year 2 of him being the point forward on this team.
We are in year 5 of him going in the wrong direction with a lot of trends that you want to see going the other way. He attempts fewer shots at the rim. He ISOs more this year than he has in years past, and his shooting percentage is altogether down. He's not doing anything.
his 3-point shot has been
He's
pretty
not
bad.
doing anything better yet. And so, yes, I know he's 23, and the idea behind that means there's a ton of room for growth, but he hasn't shown it in the last year and a half or 2 years. He hasn't. He's stuck in neutral, so to say. He is not getting better. In fact, he's kind of leaning into the stuff that you want to see him get away from at times. And this year, more so than any. That's it.
Well,
So he's not getting better. It
Joel,
doesn't mean he won't, but he hasn't in the last little bit.
Is there part of his game, or at least his attitude, that makes you wonder if maybe it's like he said a week ago, right? I know I need to get better. I know I'm not perfect. There's things that I'm working on, but sometimes I feel like I wonder if Tatum's wondering how much can the team adapt to him, instead of the other way around.
Like Mike said, I've always believed the thing with Tatum is Jimmy and I are differ on this. I believe that that Tatum wants really bad to do well, but the number one thing he knows how to do is to score. And so every time he's struggling, he just tries even harder to do it, and sometimes exacerbates the problem because he's not a guy who's doing things in a lot of other ways to help you win games. It doesn't mean he doesn't grab some rebounds from time to time and play defense as well. Sure, he does other things, but just making people around you better or affecting the game like in a Marcus Smart sort of way or in a different way, or I'm going to start distributing or blah, blah, blah. No, he just leans in and he wants to score more, and he gets really frustrated when he can't, and he kind of leans back into some of his worst habits when things aren't going well. And as Ime said before the game, the offense affects the defense. So when he starts to go south, it really goes bad.
I thought they could compete. Maybe. I mean, is that so much to ask?
No,
If
they
they
have no
can't compete,
shooting.
if they can't
They have no
compete,
shooting, and the Nets have the most shooting in the league.
if they can't even compete, then what are we like? What are we doing?
We
Really?
know they're
I
not
mean, if they can't
championship contenders this year. I mean, our expectations 5 seed,
I
and
don't know
that's
if that's
why like I don't. Did anyone in the world have even East Finals expectations for
No,
this
but
team
you
this
can
year? We
still
kind of know
you
where
can
they're at.
still compete in a regular season game and not be an NBA
I think
Finals
they did compete
contender.
in that second half.
Exactly.
They
I
got
was just gonna
pretty
say,
close.
Jimmy. I think 2 weeks ago they wouldn't even. This wouldn't have been a game in the fourth quarter. It would have been the whole bench just
It
cleared
wasn't
out.
a game. It
It's
was never a
not.
game. And when was it a
Guys.
game? It was
All
a
right,
double
so,
digit.
I
It was
mean,
double digits.
you two are always looking for the strides from Romeo, Grant, Neesmith, these guys.
It's the
And you
easiest
had
thing to
two-
do. To
Well-
play when the other team quits, it's the easiest thing to do. There's no pressure. Do
Al's
well or
dropping knowledge
don't,
right now,
and
by the way.
it doesn't matter.
that
Bobby, I
wasn't
look for
the
silver.
second half of
I
the-
look for that type of stuff in like a win. I don't look for it in a blowout loss where it's garbage time. That doesn't mean anything to me. If and by the way, Grant missed a lot of shots tonight, as far as I can recall. I mean, none of those guys stood out to me tonight. Romeo
What
had some solid
matters-
defense.
yeah,
Grant
what
and
matters-
Romeo were both on the floor when you turn this from 29.
Yeah,
to
they
30.
were.
It
They
doesn't
were. And who else
matter.
was on the floor for the Nets?
Not Durant.
You had
They took
Harden
their
out
foot.
there.
They took their foot off the gas, and the Celtics
Runs
took
happen in the
advantage.
NBA. Runs happen
doesn't
all the
matter.
time in the NBA. The Nets went out to what? It was 18-3 to start the second quarter or whatever it was. Like micro runs happen. That's just the NBA. And you know, you can take them with a grain of salt. I'll give them credit for it. I thought Marcus Smart was a big part of it, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and say the Celtics
Grant and
competed
Romeo
tonight.
both played well on defense. I mean,
It
the
doesn't
defensive
matter.
effort was incredible. The stretches where this team's flat out awesome on defense.
Stretches mean nothing. You have to play 48 minutes of basketball. If
How's
you want
3 weeks? How's 3 weeks the number one defense? We're never going to talk about the defense. We're just going to keep complaining about the
We are
Jays.
going to talk about a
defensive
500 team. We're going to
We
talk
talk about the
500
defense.
team.
That's why they were successful
500
over the
team.
last couple of weeks. But also remember who some of the teams that they're beating too. I mean, the last 4 games that they played are against teams that you're not going to see in the playoffs.
There were other games too over 3 weeks. It wasn't just those 2 games that built up that resume for them. You have a pretty good stretch here where the Celtics have established themselves as one of the best, most disruptive teams on defense in the NBA. That had to be their identity this year. You saw it again in a half in this game with your regulars out there doing it alongside Romeo and Grant. That's why I take away some positives from that second half. This started midway through the third. This wasn't 5 minutes to go. You went on a little 10-0 run, and that was the game. You played a good second half of basketball here. Drew it really close.
Bobby,
And
look,
then they
Bobby, it's all fine and good, but at the end of the day, in this stretch, the reality is this. Yes, great. You beat some teams you're supposed to, but the good wins, Miami, and then you can give them the Lakers. Every other one is a team you're supposed to absolutely curb
And
stomp.
what's wrong with that?
But that's the point. When you're playing Toronto, Milwaukee without their 3 best players, and you go to overtime. You split with Cleveland. Okay, you lose to Atlanta in a game that didn't really feel that particularly
Lose to the
close.
Hawks by double digits.
Yeah, exactly. And then you beat Oklahoma. You
Lose
beat
to the
Houston.
Mavericks.
Again, we're talking a stretch.
Brown was out for both those
How
games.
are you not going to look at? And again, they were out without Jalen, so
Fair.
you're going to give them. You're
Yeah,
going to
no
give them
Richardson
props.
there. No
You're
Rob.
going to give them props for it. You missed Jalen, you missed Richardson, you missed Rob for portions of those. But you have to look at the opponents here. There are games there that are almost unlosable in that stretch. So you have to look at who you're playing as well. What matters is how you stack up against better teams. 2 teams in the East that they've played recently that they expect are ahead of them, they lost in both fairly convincing fashion. Atlanta
And that's
clearly
my
looks
issue.
like a better team, and
the
Philly looks
fashion.
like a better team. And you went to overtime with Milwaukee without their 3 best players. The reality is they're miles from good teams. They're miles from them.